Greater Beverly Chamber, how are you this morning? Okay. I don't think I need my glasses, but we'll see. I just wanted to go over the order of what's kind of going on this morning. The governor's gonna come up and actually present his initiatives, his plans, and then he and I are gonna take to the bar stools here and just have a few questions, a little one-on-one. Then we're gonna ask the board of directors from the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce to come up to the front here for an official photo. Originally he was going to mix and mingle, but I think he was able to accomplish that, and something else has come up in his schedule, so we need to get the governor moving. So let me just make some brief announcements if you don't mind. I have some housekeeping to do, which I will again try and be extremely brief. I do want to recognize BevCam, who is here today, and they will be rebroadcasting this. So I am very grateful. You were here extremely early, and we're all looking forward to that. And I want to thank Robin Foster, our assistant director. Where is Robin? Robin, where are you? You can stand, Robin. Okay. And I also want to recognize the staff of the Ferncroft, who is probably here at some ungodly hour. They have been phenomenal to work with, and I am very grateful to that. At this time, I would like to recognize some elected officials in the room. If I miss you, please tell me. Mayor Cahill, City of Beverly. Mayor, I don't know if I missed you. Are you here? Are you here? Not yet. Okay. City Council President Paul Guanci. Yes, no? Didn't see him? Yes? Okay. State Representative Jerry Paracella. I know you're here because I gave you a big hug. State Representative Ted Speliotis. How are you, Ted? Good morning, Representative. State Senator Joan Lovely. She was here. I knew she had to scoot out. Is she still here? But I know that she was here. And I'd also like to recognize Danvers Selectman Daniel Bennett. Dan. Thank you in the back. Thank you. Okay, did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone? No? Okay, great. At this time, I would like to ask the Board of Directors of the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce to stand and be recognized. So please take this moment, and I want to say thank you. Thank you. This is an exceptional group of people that lead your chamber. Exceptional group of people that lead your chamber. And if you are considering or have thought about being a part of our board, please let me know. We're always looking for new talent in our pipeline of amazing members. So we are grateful for that. Just a couple of things to look out for. On your table, there is a flyer for our Power of Women event. This is on Monday, July 29th. It's our second event. We have 70 RSVPs so far. We are ridiculously thrilled. This is a new initiative through this chamber, and it is clearly something that is needed, and we are very excited about it. So take a look at the flyer, and if you would like to attend, then please RSVP with us online. Over the summer, I will be working on, and this is like midsummer, but I am working on it, hosting a regional transportation breakfast in the fall. With both Beverly and Danvers, as well as organizing a Main Streets breakfast to discuss their 2030 master plan. I think that would be just a really great opportunity to collaborate together and to hear what they've been working on, as well as our annual legislative breakfast, probably around Thanksgiving. So please stay tuned for more details to follow. At this time, I would like to recognize our sponsors, because without our sponsors, we actually can't survive. Membership covers 2/3 of the operating budget, but we always need our sponsors to support the rest, and for that we are extremely grateful. Our bronze sponsors this morning are Constitution Financial Partners. Would you like to stand, please, and be recognized? Thank you. Our silver sponsor is Marblehead Bank. Stand up, please. Come on, you guys. Our gold sponsor today is Institution for Savings. I have a table here. Go ahead. Thank you, thank you. And our presenting sponsor is Endicott College. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Stephen DeSalvo, president of Endicott College. He is a higher education leader with a track record of transformative success at multiple U.S. colleges and universities. He is Endicott's 7th president as of July 1st of this year, an esteemed voice in the national conversation about college affordability. His most recent tenure as president of St. Anselm's College was marked by enrollment and endowment growth, a successful capital campaign, increased retention and graduation rates, and he led a significant capital improvement project, or several. He comes to Endicott with a wealth of experience, executive experience, and maintains a deep belief in providing college access to all students and ensuring that the college community is diverse, inclusive, and reflective of the world in which we live. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephen DeSalvo, who will introduce our governor. Thank you.
On my 18th day of work at Endicott. One of the things I was sharing this morning is when you're looking at making a move, there are lots of variables that you consider, and obviously the first one was the health of the institution. And I can assure you that Endicott is in a very strong financial position. We have a great business model, and as you may know, the internship program is what differentiates us from many, many other schools. The requirement to do an internship your first year, a second one during your sophomore or junior year, and a full semester internship during your senior year, which leads to employment. And so we attract students into the state, and we also retain them thanks to our partners in the corporate community. We also have an incoming class that's quite large. We're happy about that. But we also decreased our selectivity by 11%. So students who want to come to Endicott are certainly knocking on our door. My wife Eileen and I were thrilled to be able to join the Endicott family, but equally thrilled to consider the two other important variables, which was the city in which we will live. And we were just blown away by what we saw in and around Beverly and the greater North Shore community. And so we feel very blessed to be part of this community, and we're looking forward to getting to know many of you. And the third variable, of course, is the health of the state in which you live. I was up in New Hampshire for 6 years. Governor Sununu was not happy that I was leaving the state of New Hampshire, but when I told him I was coming to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with Governor Baker, it kind of lightened the blow a little bit. So thank you for that, Governor. We are thrilled to be able to be a sponsor this morning, and it is my privilege to do the introduction for Governor Baker. Governor Charlie Baker was sworn in for a second term as the 72nd governor of the Commonwealth on January 3rd, after a first term focused on moving Massachusetts forward through bipartisan, results-driven leadership. Governor Baker has used public-private partnerships to spur economic development, reformed the state's regulatory environment, and delivered critical tax relief by doubling the earned income tax credit. Ensuring that Massachusetts continues to be a national leader in education, Governor Baker has made historic investments in K-12 education, increased support for vocational and technical schools, and expanded early college opportunities for high school students. Governor Baker has put Massachusetts at the forefront of fighting the opioid and heroin epidemic, doubling spending on prevention, education, treatment, and recovery, and signing 2 major bills that have served as models for other states. Confronted with the challenges of rising energy costs and changing climates, Governor Baker has taken nation-leading steps to diversify the Commonwealth's energy portfolio, safeguard residents, municipalities, and businesses from the impacts of climate change, and secure progress towards greenhouse gas reduction targets. Prior to his election, Governor Baker was a highly successful leader of complex business and government organizations, serving as a cabinet secretary to both Governor Bill Weld and Paul Cellucci, and leading Harvard Pilgrim as CEO from the brink of bankruptcy to one of the nation's highest-ranked healthcare providers. Governor Baker and his wife Lauren reside in Swampscott and are the proud parents of 3 children, Charlie, AJ, and Caroline. Please join me in welcoming Governor Charlie Baker.
Thank you, Steve. Please sit. So, first of all, let me just start by thanking you all for coming out early in the morning to hear what I might have to say about what's going on. It's for me, it's nice to go to an event that's not too far from my house. I live down the street in Swampscott and have spent a lot of time in the restaurants in Beverly. The mayor, by the way, snuck in after his introduction. Where did you go, Mike? There he is. There's the mayor, Mike Cahill. Thank you for being with us. So let me just start by talking a little bit about some of the stuff we're working on, and I look forward to the follow-up with Leslie. On the economic front, I think the best thing I can say, or the simplest thing I can say about the state of play with respect to our economy is it's been about as good as it gets. We have more people working than at any time in state history. We've added about 350,000 jobs over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. The unemployment rate and the number of people working in every part of the Commonwealth, the unemployment rate has gone down and the number of people working has gone up. And in many ways, that's translated into financial success for many of the public institutions that rely and depend on a successful economy to succeed. Our cities and towns have the highest free cash budgets they've had in a very long time. We started with $1 billion structural deficit, and over the past 2 fiscal years have managed to put almost $1 billion into our rainy day fund. By the time this fiscal year ends and the final numbers get counted and all the rest, it's possible we'll have a rainy day fund that's up over $3 billion, which will be the highest level we've ever had, which is a really good thing when you start thinking about the fact that at some point it will rain and we'll need to be in a position where we can ensure that we can protect a lot of the key services and programs that the Commonwealth supports if and when that occurs. With respect to sort of the economy overall from a, what types of jobs are available in it and all the rest, it's very diverse. I talk to governors in other states all the time about what's going on with their economies, and one of the things that's very much the case here in Massachusetts is we have a lot of different sectors that are doing quite well, and in many ways I think that's a boon to us. I will say that I think one of the things we benefit from is the world has moved more and more toward a knowledge-based economy. A place like us plays well in that space, primarily because we have a highly educated workforce. We have great K-12 institutions. We have great vocational and technical schools, which Steve mentioned, and we have great colleges and universities. And you put that whole thing together, and as we've moved to a knowledge-driven economy, that has played really well for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, from one end literally to the other. And I think one of the things we've tried to do as an administration is to focus on enabling communities to be successful. At the end of the day, there are certain things we can do at a macro level, but one of the things we really want to be good at, and we've tried to be great at, is helping cities and towns be successful by investing in the things they're good at and by helping them mitigate the things where they need to mitigate. And that's translated into a whole series of initiatives over the past few years that I think have had really positive benefits for communities across Massachusetts. Let's start with the fact that we made a decision when we took office that we were going to be very predictable with respect to local aid to cities and towns. And that's something, frankly, that our colleagues in the legislature have been big co-conspirators on, and it's made a really big difference when it comes to budgeting and figuring out what you're going to do at the local level to invest in your people, in your parks, in your roads, in your bridges, in your communities. The second thing we did was we redid almost all of the very old and in many cases just no longer relevant state laws and rules that cities and towns operate under. And that was a 250-page bill that had 125 sections in it of stuff that read like the phone book if you actually spent time with it. But the bottom line was it was stuff that got in the way of communities' ability to maximize their effectiveness and their efficiency. And And the best way I can describe this is to think about how it would work for you if you had to operate your organization based on a set of rules and policies that were established in the 1950s. So things like there is no internet. There are not even desktop computers. And in many cases, a lot of these rules around reporting and filing and notice and all the rest were written for a very different time. But there were things that every city and town had to do over and over and over again. And it was one of the most remarkable moments was when usually if you want to get local officials to come visit you at the State House for an event, you need to be giving them money. I mean, that's, no offense meant, but that's kind of the way it works. And when we had our signing ceremony for that legislation, when it came back to us through the legislature, we had over 100 communities show up just to celebrate the fact that all of this goo that had gotten in the way of their ability to do their job was no longer going to be there. And that then led to a compact program we put together, which was a best practice initiative where we helped through either technical advice or literally helping to pay for the technical advice and guidance the cities and towns needed to work on best practices. And over the course of the past 5 years, all 351 cities and towns, this is totally voluntary, nobody has to do it, but everybody has signed up to work on this stuff, and people have worked on, invested in, and incorporated about 1,000 best practices into the way they operate. And in some cases, this has led to bond upgrades. In some cases, it's led to projects that have translated into development opportunities. My favorite story about this was the Berry School, which is down the street on 128 in Reading, which sat vacant and empty for over 20 years. And it was through a compact grant to do work on what should happen to that property that led to the town of Reading figuring out that the best opportunity there was to do senior housing, but they needed to do a bunch of utility work to make the senior housing piece work. It was a state property, so what we said to them is, look, we will work with you to put the property out to bid, and we'll give you the lion's share of the benefit of the bids if you get them, and we will then take our bid and we'll put it back into a MassWorks grant to pay for the infrastructure and the utility work that needs to be done here, and that should translate into a successful project. And for a site that literally sat vacant for 20 years, there's now 400 units of senior housing and a whole ton of modern utility infrastructure in Reading. And that's happened over and over and over and over and over again over the course of the past 5 years. And it's happened pretty much in every part of the Commonwealth. And one of the ways we measure how we think we're doing on Beacon Hill is what we hear when we talk to our colleagues in local government, when we talk to people on the ground in places around Massachusetts, because in the end, if your community's doing well, that's how you typically will decide how you think you're doing. Most people don't get up in the morning and wonder how things are going on Beacon Hill. I know Ted does. I know Jerry does. I certainly do. Mike might once in a while. But what I really care about is how things are going in my neighborhood, in my town, in my community. That's how people think about this stuff. And our view from the beginning has been if you build great communities, you build a great Commonwealth. That's just the way it works. And that's led to other initiatives. We have a major initiative going on right now around vulnerability planning with cities and towns with respect to climate change. And for those of you who still question whether or not there is such a thing, I would just tell you that the governors were down in DC in February. And we do this every year. We go down there and we meet with folks in the administration, we meet with people on Capitol Hill, we meet with senators and congressmen, and we talk to them about what we're up to and they talk to us about what they're up to. And one of the meetings I took was a meeting with a bunch of folks from FEMA. And that may be because 20 days after I took office, it started snowing, and I never thought it was going to stop, and I'm just a little shell-shocked by the whole experience. But the interesting thing about this meeting with FEMA was they said that in the past 2 years, they put out $80 billion in disaster recovery funding, which was more than they had put out in the previous 35 years combined. And they literally said, so if you have any doubt about whether or not we have more storms and if the severity of the storms is greater than it's been, we certainly believe, looking at